It is May 6th, 2022, the go-home show for WrestleMania Backlash, AEW Rampage on at an earlier time, and I acknowledge that this is the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Alfred Konuwa, and I acknowledge that NYC Demon Diva Issa is out tonight because Bad Bunny dropped a new record, and she's got her priorities in order.
We're not going to be seeing Issa for a long, long time. That album, she's going to be attached at the hip to that album. When Bad Bunny drops a new album, it is a holiday in Issa's household.
I can't remember the last time when I had that excitement for a band releasing a new record that right away I was like, oh my God, I've got to just consume this.
Yeah, every time the Run the Jewels albums come out, I get very hyped for that. A lot of artists these days do it on surprise. So, it catches you off guard. So I guess it's easier to be excited about it because you don't have time to sit and think what's going to, like Kendrick Lamar is doing the classic rollout. He's got the press release. So I'm really anticipating it and I can't wait for it to come out. But, when somebody drops it like Beyonce and Lemonade and they just hit you out of nowhere, it really, it's an exciting moment. And I'd also like to acknowledge those glasses, Glenn. Those are
thank you.
Top shelf.
I enjoyed them so much the other night that I ordered like 4 more pairs.
Hell yeah. This is a great gimmick.
I'll tell you. So I've learned the key with sunglasses. Sunglasses are one of the most overpriced items you can buy. And if you look around, they all import them. Even the Oakleys and Ray-Bans, they're all imported basically from China. And if you find the wholesalers, you should be paying no more than $12 for a pair of sunglasses. You can pay as low as $2 if you order them by the dozen. You just need to make sure they have 100% UV protection.
I don't think I've ever paid more than $20 for a pair of sunglasses.
Oh my God. I had the friend who had the $80 pair of the bullfrogs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They came in the bag that you'd polish them with. And then he would lose them and be like, we have to go back to the restaurant. I left my sunglasses there. You don't understand. They're like $80. My mom's going to kill me. That's
it. And I don't even know where my last pair of sunglasses is. That's why I don't spend that much money on it, because I know they're just going to go missing.
I have so many, but I'll tell you, I was buying one from an outlet from like CTS wholesalers, and it was my favorite pair of sunglasses. I bought like 3 dozen, and they would break over time. But look, even expensive sunglasses break. They were maybe like $3 a pair, and they stopped carrying them. So now I'm down to like my last 4 pairs of the sunglasses I love, which is why I've got to find new sunglasses.
So you can have your last 8 pairs?
No, so I can get more. Because you never want to. First off, also, let me just tell you, the power of buying the cheap sunglasses is also you can buy multiple colors to coordinate with what you're wearing. Unless you're wearing black all the time, nothing really goes with everything.
Right. Yeah, I think that goes very well together because they're matching and you're really pulling it off. Well, but yeah, that's a good point. So you want to mix and match different sunglasses with different outfits. And so now, okay, here's a question. Are you buying the shirts with the sunglasses, or are you buying the sunglasses and saying, oh, I got a shirt that matches this?
It's the latter. Same thing with the hat. With the green hat I have that matches the green shirt, you figure it out. But I'll tell you, the other thing I learned, my late friend Brendan, may he rest in peace, turned me on to the greatest thing when I think I was like 17 years old. He said, if you find a piece of clothing that you buy and it looks good on you, it fits well, and you like how you look in it, go back to the store and buy it in every single color. Because that way you will always have an array of outfits that you like, that you look good in, and you have the flexibility to match depending on the season, depending on the occasion. You've always got options, and I've always lived by that. So like with these shirts, love these shirts, bought like 8 of these shirts in different colors.
I'm like that in 2s, where if I really like something, I'll have another, not the exact same thing, but like another style of it to wear. But 8 is, it sounds like it'd be a lot of upkeep to have 8 of everything.
I mean, not really, plus I don't buy the most expensive stuff. And I'll tell you, we interviewed on the Yellow Jackets Buzz. Issa and I interviewed the head costume designer on the show. She gave a great piece of advice, which is, you could buy stuff cheaply off the rack, but pay extra money to get it tailored. Because everyone looks better in tailored clothing. So I think post-pandemic, when everything is fully settled down and back to normal, I'm going to take my core wardrobe, maybe like 15 pieces, and go and actually get them tailored to fit me perfectly. And then I'll feel like I've really got, my core wardrobe for going out.
Look at that. I love it.
Yeah. Making plans. But tonight we had 5:30 p.m. Eastern, AEW Rampage aired on TNT after a showing of The Accountant, because they've got I'm pretty sure that's written into the contract somewhere. That
The Accountant in the middle of the day? That sounds heavy. It's a little heavy for a movie with the sun out.
Yeah. I don't remember much about that film, but I've seen the end of it now like 10 times.
Yeah. More than that. However,
And we have SmackDown tonight, the go-home show for WrestleMania Backlash. I got to be honest. I had the choice to cover Backlash Sunday. I said, nah, I got better things to do.
I'm good, homie.
I mean, is anyone looking forward to Backlash? I mean, the I Quit match is going to be cool. But
WWE had better things to do than to do Backlash, because they really have punted on this pay-per-view, and they even had a match in place that they canceled because I guess they just figured they didn't want to unify the titles, and Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre is a match that's not big enough for Backlash. So why should I, as somebody, if or any person who's like a fan of WWE, want to feel excited about watching Backlash under these circumstances?
Yeah. So wait, they're not unifying the tag titles anymore?
Not at all. It's just a regular. It is an episode of Raw on a Sunday. Is what we're getting.
What is the point of this storyline? What was the point of unifying Roman and Brock's titles? Cody's been talking about who wants to bring the Winged Eagle back, so I could see him getting the World Heavyweight Championship, the main WWE historic title, and Roman saying Universal Champ. I don't know. WWE, shocker, doesn't seem to know where they're going or what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, apparently they're, Wrestling Inc. had this as well, in terms of a story that was covered, that this was always a plan, that they were always going to have this 6-man tag team match, and this unification thing was just some carrot that they were dangling, which is just insane to think about. But I'm not very excited for a WrestleMania Backlash show.
Yeah,
I think the wrestling will be fine, but it's just, not
sure.
Not coming
Look,
off as
wrestling is not the problem with modern wrestling.
No, not at all. It's the least of the problems by that. The wrestling has never been better, but it's just in the wrong era. The stars are not as much,
the stories aren't there.
Yeah.
So before we get into everything, let's talk about the news. What do we got going on?
Boy, do we have a lot of news. Let's get into it, Glenn, starting with the Forbidden Door pay-per-view has sold out. General sales have sold out. Pre-sale sold out. Tony Khan thanked fans, and he said that over 11,000 tickets has been distributed. This is a very, very big accomplishment for AEW in the Chicago market, which they've gone to a lot, even sold out United Center. We're starting to kind of burn it out, it seemed, if you looked at some of the sales the last time, but the New Japan x AEW Forbidden Door show has got a lot of fans excited, and they bought up a lot of these tickets. I know some of them, as a lot of people have been arguing, are scalpers, but that just speaks to the demand in terms of this New Japan Forbidden Door. It's a great sign for AEW, which continues to have that kind of impassioned hardcore fan base that is buying up these tickets, going to these big events. And there's been some talk about AEW possibly doing bigger stadiums just based on how quickly they're able to sell out the United Center for a second time. So this is good when AEW has to be good in terms of them going into potential negotiations within a year or 2024, that time frame. So AEW Forbidden Door, June 26th. It is sold out as of right now in terms of the pre-sale tickets. Right now on my YouTube channel, Pro Wrestling Bits, I am celebrating with a sausage party. Real meats, Glenn, with this sausage party in terms of them selling out. We had to throw a celebration. It is wild. I had to leave just to come here. That's where Issa is actually right now. She's making sure nobody steals anything while listening to Bad Bunny. So subscribe. Everybody's invited, all inclusive. What do you think about AEW selling out?
Well, I think for the older wrestling fans, this is not the first time that the men have bought a pay-per-view called Forbidden Door.
Not at all. Maybe some men on this podcast. Who knows?
If you're in a hotel, they have limited options. You do what you got to do, and hopefully it doesn't show up on the bill with the name. Hopefully.
Absolutely. It needs to show up as guest services. That's what it needs to say.
Exactly. But yeah, look, I think this is exciting for AEW. I think this is in the sweet spot of their hardest of hardcore fan base. This has that once in a lifetime feel. Good for them. Is this going to bring new eyes to the company or up their standing? No, but it's another, notch in their victories. But I'm sure if I was Tony Khan, what would I rather have? Instant sellout of a pay-per-view or 200,000 people watching more on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good question now that I think about it. But I do think that the instant sellout, especially in a venue as big as United Center, in the marketplace of professional wrestling, that is something that's going to get people's attention, with AEW coming off as more of a mainstream entity, even if it is a bunch of hardcore fans, which they do. I completely agree with your point. They do need to grow out of that. This is something that is serving that hardcore fan base. But the fact that they are able to get so many people to buy up these big events, despite having a smaller audience, is good for them in terms of these streaming networks are looking around at potential partners and to grow their base. I mean, if AEW signs with any of these streaming partners, whether it's an Apple Plus, whether it's an upstart like an HBO Max or something like that, the fact that they have a built-in audience that is very passionate and loyal and is going to add to it. We've seen that with WWE and Peacock, and I think that's a model that's going to help AEW seem more marketable, especially around this time.
No, absolutely. And I think it's going to be excited. Wow. Censor Me Not podcast, $2, saying rather watch the Firestarter remake than WWE Backlash.
Wow.
Well, I think the Firestarter remake looks okay.
Yeah, you don't have to shit on the Firestarter remake to get your point across about Backlash. I agree. I think I would rather watch the Firestarter remake, and I don't think that's anything wrong with that.
We took a trip to Eureka, California, maybe 10 years ago to eat at this diner that we liked up there. We were like, this was like a 4-hour drive. We went there. We went and ate a vegan soul food restaurant for dinner. We stayed at the Red Lion Inn, and like they didn't have hotel, pay-per-view, anything. We literally ended up watching the 1980s Firestarter on TV with commercials, like as part of our road trip weekend to Eureka.
Oh my God. With commercials. So
with commercials.
Like 3 hours?
Still about tight 2,
Okay.
But no, Firestarter's all right. I think this remake could be okay. Let's see. We got another super chat. Mike D, $2. Should Crush be in Hall of Fame with Demolition?
If you're going to induct Demolition, I would like to see Axe, Smash, and Crush. I would like to see the whole gang. They're kind of an early, even though people compare them to the Legion of Doom, which is exactly what they were ripping off, they are also kind of like the Freebirds in terms of that 3-man tag team where they rotate in and out. And I really loved Demolition as a kid.
Yeah, Demolition was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they were awesome. And again, and if you'd like to come to the sausage party, Glenn, we have vegan meats just for you. I made sure.
But I'm watching my sodium now.
Okay. All right.
Which, let me tell you, if you want to bum yourself out, you think about living a gluten-free life, think about living a vegan life, think about living any sort of low-fat, low-carb life, and then on top of that say, oh yeah, and by the way, you got to watch your sodium intake.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that by choice.
I mean,
yeah, but like it's pretty much then just like lots of like straight up vegetables, and you have to very carefully pick and choose, where you spend your sodium.
That's good. Yeah. So you got to watch out for that. That salt is a slow killer.
It is.
Especially in the Black community. I watch my sodium intake, that's for sure. WWE, somebody who's been watching their diet was W. Morrissey. I don't know, also known as Big Cass. Yes. He appeared on Dynamite this week. I mean, looking like $1 million. I've known this because he's been on, Impact, and I catch some Impact here and there, and know that he's been out there. But I mean, on this stage, I'm just watching him on Dynamite and thinking like this guy, like WWE is gonna really, if they're watching, they're gonna really want him. And that's actually turns out to be the case according to Andrew Zarian of Matmen. It looks like WWE is impressed with Big Cass. They were impressed with his AEW debut, where he went one-on-one against Wardlow, who, Wardlow's a big boy, and Big Cass dwarfed this guy. And Big Cass, I thought, looked very good in there, and WWE interested. There's a lot of questions and inquiries about Big Cass, aka W. Morrissey's contract situation. There were also "We Want Enzo" chants on AEW Dynamite, of course, followed by "No, we don't." But that's Enzo. He's a polarizing guy. So you, Glenn, because we talk about this a couple of times over the past few weeks, and Enzo and Cass and how much we missed it. Do you think we'll see Big Cass back in the WWE ring anytime soon? And is he accompanied by Enzo?
I think if you don't have Enzo, I think he's going to have a very hard time getting the audience excited. He didn't work as a singles act. There was a thing with him beating up the little person before in the Daniel Bryan angle. There was, his feud against Enzo. I think you bring back Enzo as his mouthpiece, and I think the quality of the TV will improve greatly, and I think Cass will get over. And in fact, can you imagine Big Cass with Enzo as his manager going up against Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman as his mouthpiece? That's
unbelievable. I love that you brought that up. I haven't thought of those two dynamics, but I have thought of the idea of like, okay, Enzo's not going to come back. They're done with the cruiserweight division for all intents and purposes, unless he's going to, NXT 2.0. But I have thought of like Enzo would be a great manager for Big Cass. I thought of that when they were together on the main roster in terms of how WWE tends to book shorter guys like Enzo, but he could talk so well. So I would love that. I think if Enzo and Paul Heyman going head to head on the mic would be incredible. Whether it's a styles clash between the two, both can talk, both have their own styles of talking that are completely different. And I think that would be a great segment.
I mean, Roman needs opponents right now.
Big Cass would be perfect. Big Cass essentially could play the role he played in AEW as a big imposing giant who Roman Reigns could slay. Like that's a kind of a marquee match, even if it isn't like an A-list marquee match. It's something that I think would have been perfect for WrestleMania Backlash. If you heat up Big Cass and you have him go against Roman Reigns, that'd be a lot of fun in terms of, maybe not the most technically sound professional wrestling match, but it could be a match that gets people interested in. I would have no problem with Big Cass and the WWE roster, just knowing that just the way he looks, how I hear that his personal struggles are behind him and he looks incredible. And if he's able to come back as this Big Cass, I think he could really get a serious push in WWE.
Just Enzo getting beat up by the Usos, gold right there.
Yeah. They would get after it too, because and Enzo's actually put on some pounds himself in terms of being pretty shredded and pretty muscular. And he's always been such a great talker. Listen, I shared a clip of Enzo doing that roast of the cruiserweights on Twitter this week. 32,000 views and counting. I'm not the only one who misses Enzo. You're not the only one. Yeah. We heard on Dynamite and the other company, they're screaming that they want Enzo. So, I know it was kind of ugly how he left. He doesn't have the best relationship with Triple H, but I want to see Enzo, whether it's NXT or whatnot, back in WWE.
Triple H's influences is the most diminished it's ever been right now. But look, I've been saying this for literally years now on this podcast. If Enzo had not pulled that stunt at Survivor Series, he would already be back in WWE.
100%. It was, it was very sensitive matter, and he didn't handle it the best in terms of notifying WWE. And it's unfortunate how it all happened, but I do think that not only would he have been back, I think if that wouldn't have happened, if he would have handled it correctly, he would have stayed there. And I think he would have gotten a real strong push. And maybe we're talking about the Cruiserweight title still being there and not even needing a 24/7 title to be that kind of lower end title. I think he was doing a great job as Cruiserweight champion. And, who knows, like, to your point about Triple H, maybe they'll bring him back just to screw with Triple H. They've already screwed with him all kinds of other ways in NXT. Maybe they'll bring Enzo back just to keep screwing with poor Triple H.
Yeah, but they got to do something, man. The biggest problem with WWE right now, aside from having credible opponents for Roman Reigns, which is like their biggest systemic problem, they have a struggle putting on 7 hours of good TV a week between their 3 shows.
Yeah, 100%, especially with the roster. Very limited in how they use a lot of their people on the roster.
What else we got?
We've got on the topic of Dynamite, didn't do too good of a number. In fact, a very bad number, 833,000 viewers on TBS. We know the elephant in the room is the NBA playoffs. That is absolutely why these numbers, whether it's Rampage, whether it's SmackDown, whether it's Dynamite, these numbers have all been down across the board. A lot of maybe not historic lows, but yeah, we've had a couple of historic lows. We've had 1 year lows, but this is a very, very, very low. This is about what they were doing when they were going head to head with NXT. And you had the women's main event between 2 very talented women, Deonna Purrazzo, who's great, and Mercedes Martinez is excellent. But again, we weren't told anything about them. They just kind of went out there and had a match for this ROH title, which I don't think Tony Khan's done a great job establishing the ROH brand past being another title on AEW TV. So this really went into the toilet. Not a lot of reaction for this match for the live crowd, and unfortunately, people weren't really tuning into this. So a very bad number for AEW Dynamite, Glenn.
Again, would you rather have that sell out or be cracking 1 million every week?
Yeah, that's it depends on where you are. See, if you're on the verge of negotiating a TV deal, I definitely have 1 million per week. Like if I could say I'll get 1 million viewers from now for the rest of the year, I would take that over selling out these stadiums. Well,
and ultimately you will get stronger pay-per-view buys across the board, as opposed to one-off. So we'll see. Is Double or Nothing sold out yet?
Double or Nothing, I believe, is sold out. They've done very well on the West Coast, selling out Las Vegas, the Forum, where I'm going to be June 1st for Dynamite, and because they have never been to the West Coast, and they're finally coming, and tickets are flying off the shelves for that.
Steve Marcucci, $199. Better chance that Moxley or Jericho returns to WWE?
It's a great question. I'm going to say Jericho. I think Moxley is just a different breed. I don't think he's motivated by money, which I think WWE come 2024, which is going to be a landmark year in wrestling. They're going to have a lot of money to throw around. There's going to be a lot of free agents. And, I think Moxley is somebody WWE would like to have back. They continue to say his name on TV, especially when Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns are feuding. I know WWE has a soft spot for the Shield, which they continue to shout out, even though Moxley's gone. And they would love to have some kind of a Shield reunion if Moxley was to come back. But I just don't think, I think Moxley's over WWE. I think he's made up his mind. I don't necessarily think he's going to be with AEW for life. I could see him saying, I'm just going to go around the world. I'm going to go on the Indies. I'm going to go to Japan. But I don't think it's between AEW and WWE for Moxley. I think it's AEW and professional wrestling in the rest of the world. And I think with Jericho, I think he could always come back. But I don't know if he would want to.
Yeah. What else? What else is in the news?
Candice LeRae, unfortunately, gone from WWE. Of course, her husband, Johnny Gargano, left earlier, I believe it was earlier this year, and now she's officially gone.
Not a shock. Actually, kind of surprising they didn't freeze her contract or add time, but I think they're just they've made peace.
Yeah, and you knew, and I think this might have been, to your point, I think that they had an opportunity to definitely freeze time because of the time she took off, but I think they're just, because she's a new mother and she's, her husband is gone, and maybe they were just
optics would
doing
have been
right
terrible.
by her. But yes, very, very bad. They got to be careful with a situation like that.
Yeah.
And final news story, WWE on pace for another billion, 333 million in the first quarter. That is a record. I mean, they're doing great, and this is just more reason to believe that. I just think I've kind of given up hope on a boom period for pro wrestling in terms of mainstream cloud. I just think that, the way everything's scattered, the way I think wrestling fans are just, it's kind of between WWE and AEW for different reasons. They have a small following that I think has a low ceiling. But I do think in terms of economically, I think it's going to be a big period for wrestling. And for the people who already watch it, it's going to be very exciting in 2024 with, free agency. And I really do think that both WWE and AEW are going to come up with big contracts because live content is huge when you're negotiating with these streaming services. When it comes to the fact that they have this built-in subscriber base, and when it comes to the 18 to 49 demo, which even though it's a fraction of what WWE did at its peak, I think they've just been doing so many, whether it's number one on cable every week, both AEW and WWE in those 18 to 49s have had kind of a stronghold relative to their competition. So I think there's a lot of things looking up for both companies in terms of 2024 negotiations.
Yeah, it's such a fractured marketplace for entertainment. I think any audience is bankable these days. So before we hop into the shows and an exciting non-wrestling announcement this week that I'm just over the moon about. We have a sponsor tonight. What is up with that, Alfred?
Let's get into this sponsor, our good friend Conrad Thompson. Ladies and gentlemen, you could be overpaying your biggest bill. We are partnering with Conrad and First Family Mortgage to help lower your monthly payments, saving you hundreds of dollars every month. SaveWithWink.com makes saving money easy. Lower your monthly payments, get rid of PMI, all while cutting 5, 7, even 10 years off your loan. Get started with just a few clicks at SaveWithWink.com. Here are some more details from the GOAT, Tony Schiavone. We'll see you back in 30 seconds.
Hello, wrestling fans. Tony Schiavone here for my good friends at First Family Mortgage and WrestlingInc.com. So why don't we get you a plan together today? Let's pay off your house faster. Let's get you out of that credit card debt. Let's get a lower monthly payment. First Family Mortgage can help. Complete the fast and easy form, and a member of Conrad's team will be in touch very soon.
There you have it. Go to Save with Wink. That's WINC.com, SaveWithWink.com. And we thank them for sponsoring the Wrestling Inc. podcast. So I got to talk about this before we dive into Rampage and SmackDown. Paramount Plus as a streaming service has been largely flawed. Not a lot of great content. They promise it's going to be all the Viacom stuff, all the MTV stuff, the Nickelodeon stuff. It's been all right. But yesterday, they uploaded 50 classic episodes of Yo MTV Raps to Paramount Plus. Got everything but the commercials are in there. So last night I watched Fab Five Freddy with Dre and Snoop, Watch the Ghetto Boys episode today. Watch the first episode with Run DMC. Second episode with NWA. They're with Fab Five Freddy in the back of a truck. They're going on a tour from Compton all the way to Venice Beach. They go to the Compton Swap Meet together. And they have all these music videos that you never saw in regular rotation on MTV. And these are master quality tapes, the best quality versions of these hip hop videos, hip hop history. Stuff that you can only find crappy VHS copies out there on YouTube. They've upscaled it so it looks good on a HD and 4K screen. I'm just so excited about this. This is like what I'm going to be doing for the next week, is watching all these episodes.
This is incredible. And we were talking off air about this. The MTV Raps was a little before my time. I'm more of like the generation of like Rap City and 106 and Park and whatnot. But I'm more interested in watching, just knowing how NWA kind of exploded, knowing the legends that some of these guys became, looking back and seeing them on Yo MTV Raps, I think would be very exciting, especially guys like Ice Cube, who's like almost two different people. If you see Ice Cube in his NWA era and what he grew up to be in terms of, more of a mogul, a businessman, an actor, and, more of a fully fledged entertainer, to see him in NWA when he was just this raw rapper, I think would be really fascinating.
So exciting, man. I mean, so they've got Cubes on there in NWA. They've got NWA after Cube left. I think there's 1 or 2 Cube solo episodes. There's Tupac, Nas, Tribe Called Quest. And when they're guests for the entire episode, sometimes performing, sometimes just hanging out. There's Beastie Boys episode, Cypress Hill, episode with Mike Tyson. Crisscross is on there. I mean, but I'll tell you the music video. So, piece of history. Everyone says, we all know the first video shown on MTV ever was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. First video ever shown on Yo MTV Raps, Follow the Leader by Eric B. and Rakim.
Oh, I love that. I did not know that.
So it's cool. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so it's cool. So you go to stuff like that. You see JJ Fad. You see KRS-One. Depending on the era. I saw on the Ghetto Boys episode, the music video, Intelligent Hoodlum from the movie Posse. They had like his track, which pretty much is like a book report recapping the movie Posse in hip hop form. But I don't know. I'm really stoked about this. I'm stoked that we can legally access like great archive historical content, because MTV was just such a juggernaut for me as a kid growing up in the Midwest. Like when I lived in the Bay Area, I was exposed to hip hop, but man, when I lived in Michigan, like Yo MTV Raps was my gateway to the music, to the culture, and to go back and be able to watch these episodes from 88 to 95. Like I want everyone to watch this because I want them to put more up there, because there are hundreds, probably over 1,000 episodes of Yo MTV Raps. So, I highly recommend Paramount Plus. I think the free tier is pretty cheap. You can get the premium, or the tier with commercials is pretty cheap. And then they've got a tier above that. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing this weekend.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm definitely, and that sounds like it was kind of a precursor to the podcast in terms of having the same guest for the entire hour and being able to just kind of chop it up. That's kind of what you see with a lot of content today. So kind of a trailblazing thing. And also the Ghetto Boys were great on the Office Space podcast. Really made that movie.
Yes. I was watching KRS-One's My Philosophy. KRS-One's intro. What do you think of KRS-One? Do you listen to much KRS-One?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, one of the greatest voices in hip hop. Like, if you don't get hyped to KRS-One, you don't have a pulse.
See, I think KRS-One's very intelligent and he has a very good flow, but I don't think he has a lot of great songs. Like, I like Step Into a World. I think Step Into a World has some amazing lyrics. My philosophy, though, re-listening to that, you listen to that song, and like every other line in that song has been sampled in another hip hop song.
Mm-hmm. Very influential.
Every other line. Yeah. Very influential.
Step into. I mean, it's just intoxicating.
Yes. Oh, man. Although my favorite KRS-One memory is when PM Dawn was playing a show in New York, right when Set Adrift and Memory Bliss came out. And KRS-One bum rushed the stage, shoved Prince B down on the floor, and yelled out, like, "This is not true hip hop."
Yeah, it's like the original battle. That's another thing before his time. They were rushing the stage before everybody else was.
Although that being said, PM Dawn is actually, I don't know if you've listened to any PM Dawn. Like, PM Dawn was actually kind of ahead of their time. Kind of cool what they were doing,
I've heard a couple of, I wasn't really heavy into PM Dawn, but I did enjoy what I have heard about them.
Yeah, Set Adrift on Memory Bliss, man. Absolute classic. So anyhow, Yo MTV Raps Classic, Paramount Plus, check it out. 50 episodes live. Great time. Great trip down memory lane. All the classics. Let's talk about AEW Rampage first tonight, since that was on at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. And we open with Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Ruby Soho and Toni Storm. What did you think of this match, Alfred?
I thought it was excellent. And now that I think about it, doesn't it feel like Rampage happened yesterday? Because
Yes.
it was like hours ago. And now that I'm covering it, I feel like I was watching it yesterday. It just seems like so long ago. But I thought it was a really good match. I think the crowd was into it. They had plenty of time to relax because they weren't doing anything for the main event with Deonna Purrazzo and Mercedes Martinez. So they got their energy back. And I thought they had a very good match. I thought this was excellent. Very surprised that they let Toni Storm pin Britt Baker.
Yeah. Well, I think that we've talked about this before. And WWE actually doesn't do this, so I'm glad that AEW does. Like when you have a absolute superstar who's been a champion or has been on an undefeated streak, like don't be afraid to let them have a losing streak because one, it will get over new talent, and two, it will make it that much more meaningful when they have their comeback.
Yes, absolutely. If somebody's already over, especially, they can do a losing streak as long as it's part of the storyline, as long as they're just not unceremoniously losing and then going away, as long as we get follow-up and reaction to their loss. It's perfectly fine to do a losing streak. I just listened to that Ember Moon podcast with Chris Van Vliet, which is very good, very explosive and spicy. Yeah. And she was talking about how she pitched wanting to do a losing streak storyline, but WWE may not be the best place for stuff like that because they do tend to kind of put people on ice after a couple of weeks and forget about what they were doing with them. Yeah.
So this was hot open to the show. Toni and Ruby got the win. Fun match.
Yeah, I thought that's a great way to put it. I thought it was a very fun match. I think the fans were very much into this. Usually when you see these Rampage shows, sometimes because they just sat through 2 hours of Dynamite, their crowd will be a little more tired, especially for the first match, the opening match. I've seen Bryan Danielson matches get nothing opening the show, but this got a lot.
Excalibur on the commentary desk said they had a phone call from Eddie Kingston. And Eddie Kingston talking about Jericho and the Fireball. This felt, maybe part of it's Kingston's accent, maybe parts because it's a phone call. This felt like the most ECW Howard Stern shit we have seen ever in AEW.
It was kind of like Livewire too. Do you remember WWF Livewire where they would take calls in the studio? It was kind of like that. But I actually loved this. I loved the phone call and Eddie Kingston, who's just always so great and always knows how to sound so real, talking about his wife, how she was sad. And I just thought it was so funny and such like a heel thing to do where as soon as Jericho heard about like, you made my wife cry, he just breaks into laughter and he's just so proud of himself. And Eddie's of course watching. He's just like, okay, you keep laughing. I'll be there and I'm going to come and I'm going to make you feel like that. So I thought this was great. I just, Jericho and Kingston have done no wrong throughout this feud to me.
I like that it was on the phone. Yeah, it felt a little hokey and a little throwback, but it actually worked. WWE would have done this by satellite or God forbid Skype. Like Eddie Kingston's FaceTiming in, and then we get, because I like that Eddie didn't sound like he was cutting a promo because there was none of that. I gotta look to the camera and gesture and hit this. It sounded real.
It sounded like he called somebody up and was like pulling up. It sounded like, hey man, you better watch your back.
Yeah. So let's see. Nisa, Mark Sterling promo backstage match against Danhausen. We had Hook versus JD Drake. Defeating JD Drake very easily.
Yes, I mean, this is a classic Hook match, not too long. I thought this was more convincing in terms of him being able to just jump on JD Drake because you don't necessarily want to see him throwing around JD Drake. Then it gets a little weird, like this guy 10 times the size. But I like this. I liked them going back to basics with Hook, and I like what they do with. Listen, I don't know if they had these plans to make Hookhausen and make this a thing, but they're definitely going in that direction, and people are with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, if not, why not? At this point, it seems like what is happening. Dylan Matthews is just saying Hook needs more meaningful matches and wins right now. I mean, I don't know. I think it depends on what the plan is.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think they're doing fine with him. There will come a time where there's going to be kind of a visceral feeling like he's outgrown just doing these basic squash matches, but I don't even think we're close to that. I think people like seeing Hook. They like seeing him showcase in these short matches. Again, he's still only had, I think, less than 50 matches. So, the more that they can kind of hide him and accentuate his strengths, the better. And eventually, I think through Danhausen, he's going to end up getting more over and then starting to go after those titles.
But what they're doing, so Danhausen coming out there and saying like he wants this partnership, he wants Hook in his corner for the match against Tony Nese, and he gives him a bag of chips gift wrapped. I mean, credit to AEW because this would have been like if like Goldust would have tried to like propose a tag team with Goldberg when Goldberg was on his winning streak.
Yeah, and put a wig on him too, which is a infamous moment in WWE. I liked how they did this, and I actually, Hook. I think one weak spot in the Hook is like his facials and to kind of convey what he just kind of got one mode where he's just always angry, and I thought he did a good job, kind of teasing that he was really taken aback by these Doritos. Like when he saw those Doritos, he looked at those Doritos like a dog looks at raw meat. Like he was all about it, and then he had to kind of convince himself, no, I don't want these Doritos. So I thought he was great in the segment.
Do you know what the sodium content is in a bag of Doritos? Hook can't be having that.
Too much. That and hot Cheetos. Like you can't, as much as I love them, I can't have those.
Yeah. Women's Owen Hart qualifying match, Yuka Sakazaki versus Rio. What did you think of this match?
Very good. I mean, these are two women who work together. They've been working together since the start of AEW. Great to see Riho back. I think nobody does more with less than Riho. She could take months off, and she comes back. And I mean that because she doesn't get a lot of opportunities to wrestle these days. But when she does, people go crazy for her. I mean, it's she's very got
way into this.
Yes, you've got a great connection, very special connection with this crowd. Every time she comes around, I remember early on in AEW, she was on TV almost every week, and I believe she was a champion. Yeah, she's a champion, and she's doing a great job. And then, of course, COVID happened and she disappeared. But I mean, she's been long overdue for, I think, a weekly role. And she's not even. This was not an Owen Hart qualifier, was it?
According to Wrestling Inc., it was.
Okay, it was. Okay, so that's good. But I mean, I think Rio, they need to do more with Rio.
Yeah, Rio won this match. This was a really good match, though. Tonight, both of these matches were some of the better women's matches that AEW's had in terms of time, placement on the card, attention paid. I thought this was very, very enjoyable match.
Yeah, another example where wrestling is not the weak point of this women's division. It's getting these women over. They've gotten two women over, which is Britt Baker and Jade Cargill, using kind of the same tactics of they're being mean girls, which is like such a trope in wrestling. And it succeeded here. But I think wrestling, and especially AEW, needs to focus on creating characters, women characters who are maybe more relatable. Could be relatable to other women, could be relatable to other men, can be actually fully formed human beings. I think that's somewhere they've really struggled is outside of these heel women who are these dastardly characters. They really haven't created any true authentic baby faces. I thought they had a chance with Ruby Soho, but that kind of took a step back.
Absolutely. I'm not going to acknowledge Dan Lambert's promo tonight.
Oh,
but
no.
Let's talk about Scorpio Sky facing off with Frankie Kazarian, though, former SCU teammates, and they're going to have a match for the TNT title.
Yeah, great baby face stuff. I'll believe it when I see it with Scorpio Sky in terms of him being a dominant champion. I know they were saying, he hasn't lost in 300 some odd days, but that's only because he had like 13 matches in a year. But now, hopefully, they're all in on Scorpio Sky. I love the fact, and you're going to like this too, that they took that co-championship off Dan Lambert. I didn't like the idea of Scorpio Sky having to have like a handler and a co-champion. So he's got that in his collection, which is a GOAT collection for Lambert. And Scorpio Sky is coming through as a individual champion. And hopefully they run with this guy as somebody who defends this title every week. I can't wait to see Scorpio and Frankie Kazarian. I think it should be a great match.
Yeah, Dan Lambert, man. Like,
what is your main gripe with Dan? Because I love what he's doing. I think he does a good job of kind of blurring those lines in terms of reality and just a wrestling promo.
I mean, what is his relevance and what reverence should we have for him?
He is, and I don't think most people know this, but he is a very, 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 he is actually a hardcore wrestling fan. Like he's a big belt collector and he loves wrestling. He's just a great talker. Like if you see him not knowing anything about his background, not a lot of people can talk the way he does with the conviction and the energy and he's a great talker, and he's great at getting heat in terms of not cheap heat, but saying things that people do say when they're making fun of AEW and saying them in a way that resonates with people as real.
But why can't we use an underutilized talent and give them that mic time to make like Dan Lambert? There's no ceiling on Dan Lambert because there's no floor on Dan Lambert because Dan Lambert's popularity ultimately means nothing. Like Scorpio Sky could surpass Dan Lambert in one promo.
I mean, okay. In terms of popularity, I just think he needs to wrestle. And I mean, I think he's a fine enough promo, but I do think that Dan Lambert can help. And he has helped this act by being the kind of heater, the guy who talks and who's able to kind of bring some type of relevance to this team. I really do think, and I even know Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page's event of the year were floundering. They really didn't have a purpose just as a duo. They were two talented guys who AEW didn't really know what to do with. And with Dan Lambert, I think they've had a direction. And ever since Dan Lambert came along, you've got Scorpio Sky as a champion. You've got more TV time for them. They're all cutting promos.
But this is the argument, though, for why AEW needs writers. Because if the only way you could do a promo is if you're the guy that delivers the promo or you have the ability to improvise a promo, like the majority of that roster is screwed because even if they're talented wrestlers, most of them don't have that ability.
Yes, it would help to have writers. I don't think the lesson from WWE is no scripted promo. I don't think it's an all or nothing thing. I think maybe no full staff of writers. Sure. But even saying that Vince McMahon, I think, is a problem with this whole thing because they get filtered through him. So there's a lot of sameness. There's a lot of things that come off as out of touch. But I think with AEW, you could have a couple of writers here and there. Maybe get some women. When I was thinking watching the shows, like, God, they've got so many talented women. Get some women who maybe know how to write in the voice, in the perspective from a woman. That could help in terms of developing some of these characters. Get some people from different backgrounds to help write and help bring together some ideas. So it's not just this, internet wrestling circle jerk every week. So that actually maybe they're adding some dimensions to some characters and they can gravitate outside of these hardcores. Because this hardcore bubble, they're not going to win in terms of being able to compete with WWE with these hardcore fans over the long haul. You're going to need to grow. And I mean, I do think that writers can help that.
Put that on a pro wrestling tees store, the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Circle Jerk.
Yes, I'll put it there. I think that's what's going on at my sausage party at this point, but hopefully they have their hands to their spells. Issa's watching them. They're not doing that.
Yes. Matt Morgan said something very funny once. Matt Morgan, by the way, and I are reuniting.
Yes.
With Raj Giri. It looks like it's going to be mid-May, probably a Thursday. So stay tuned for more details on that soon. But Matt Morgan once said that hardcore members of the internet wrestling community would be content to pleasure themselves if Daniel Bryan defecated in a ring and they were just close enough to get a whiff.
I agree. I 100% agree. Just a whiff, though? Just one whiff? Maybe two whiffs they would.
Yeah, just close enough, to say they were there while they were doing it.
So now I have that image in my mind. It's so poetic how you described it. I see it.
But that's the thing. So I get it. I get what Dan Lambert's doing is good and funny, but this is still a new company that needs talent and characters that we get behind in every moment he spends on the mic. Remember in SCU, Scorpio Sky, SCU was cutting good promos,
SCU
I don't know.
I have very fond memories of SCU from even before AEW when they were doing Being the Elite every week. I thought when they did This Is the Worst Town I've Ever Been In, they had those promos. Like Scorpio Sky, you're right. He can talk. And I mean, he shows it. I think maybe because Dan Lambert is just such a bombastic personality, maybe Scorpio loses a bit, especially because they don't let him talk a lot. But Scorpio can definitely talk. And
that's my point with this. It's not about does Dan Lambert have any value? It's about what is that time at the expense of?
Yes, that's a fair question. That is. And do you think that TNT title looks a little small? Can't they make it a little bigger? It looks very small.
Maybe Scorpio Sky is just so jacked
that's the thing.
By scaled comparison.
Yeah, it looks bigger on that's probably what it is. It looks bigger on Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky. He's got those traps, he's got the pecs, and it just looks small on him. Sammy
looks like he just rolled into AEW after Pop Warner football practice. He does not look like a grown man.
What position would Sammy Guevara play in Pop Warner? Would he be the quarterback? He'd be the kicker. Yeah, he'd be the
kicker. So Jungle Boy attacked Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks retreated. Jungle Boy held up the FTW championship and was on. Then we had the main event tonight, Jay Lethal versus Konosuke Takashita. What did you think of this match?
Love this. Loved Jay Lethal getting a win here. This say this again. I already forgot. It was already
Konosuke Takashita.
Takashita. Yeah, I liked him. I thought he showed well as a babyface. I loved his gear. He looks like he has it together. Very explosive in there. But, you know, working with Jay Lethal, who's one of the best in the world, legit, is going to bring out the best in you. So I don't know how much of it was that. They did show his highlights on Dynamite, and he looked good there. But I liked what I saw from both guys. I thought Jay Lethal looked good. Sanjay Dutt has been kind of an unsung hero. I think he's been great in this role where he's just kind of talking for this giant. He's talking for Jay Lethal. He's doing it all. He's, you know, kind of stopping people. I think Sanjay Dutt, it's great to see him get his shine, because I remember him in TNA and I forgot how good he was. And they didn't really let him talk as much as they did in TNA. He's more of a wrestler in the X division, but his promos are incredible.
Yeah, so Jay Lethal with Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh. Jay Lethal got the win, and after that we had Trent, the Best Friends, and Orange Cassidy come out, and then Samoa Joe as well, who was stopped by security. This was an all right ending, but I have a feeling they knew this is going to be the lowest rated Rampage of all time.
Oh yeah, it looks like they were just kind of packing up shop here. Looks like it's going to be a fast National Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. Do not shoot a messenger. Vince
is staying up late tonight to get the Fast Nationals on this and text them to the streets.
Yes. Vincent Vaughn, are we talking about? I don't know which
Vince Vaughn, yes. And he's going to say, "You're so money, baby," and you don't even know it.
That's a great reference. But yeah, it looks like this is going to be an all-time low number for, I mean, in the middle of the day, it does feel like it was yesterday. And I don't know how many people see. It's one thing in California where it's like when they were having it at 4, it's like, well, in California, people are still at work. At 2, at 5:30 Eastern, pretty much everybody is either at work or leaving work. And I don't know, man. The unemployed, they're going to really need to reach into that unemployed fan base who's watching this to get these numbers up. But this is going to be an all-time low for AEW Rampage.
Yes. I had a friend that recently went through a breakup, and I was talking to him, and I was giving him advice. And I said, "Have you seen the movie Swingers?" And he said, "Oh my God, if one more person references the movie Swingers in regards to my breakup, like, you know, that's just it. Just, I'm not talking to anyone anymore."
That is a great movie that you can learn. I learned something about kind of the dating every time I watch Swingers. It's a very good movie for like realistically portraying a lot of things. I know some of it is a little didn't age very well, but I think Swingers is a very underrated movie.
Yeah, it's actually aged. It kind of boomeranged around. It was hot, then it was overplayed, but now you watch and you go, okay, this was the time. It is a time capsule of its era, and it's enjoyable for what it is.
It really is.
You know, I'm gonna find out this weekend when I watch Mario Van Peebles' Posse if that has aged well, because that came out like 30 years ago and I've never seen it. It's about black and American Indian cowboys.
Oh wow!
In the Old
it's
West, yes.
Like The Harder They Fall, but with American Indians as well.
Tone Loc is in it.
Really?
Yeah. No, Posse has got a pretty stacked cast. There's like Nipsey Russell is in it. I mean, Mario Van Peebles directs and stars. And here's the reason why I'm shocked I've never seen it. New Jack City is legit one of my favorite movies of all time. Have you seen that with Ice?
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah. So Posse, Stephen Baldwin, which interesting. He's the token white guy. But Tom Lister is in it. Big Daddy Kane. Oh, Billy Zane is also in it. Blair Underwood. Tone Loc. Pam Grier.
Isaac Tiny Lister.
Yeah. Oh, no, Tiny Lister.
Yeah,
his name is officially Tom. Yes. So Tiny
and
Lister.
Zeus.
Yes. Isaac Hayes. Reginald Vell Johnson.
Oh, Family Matters.
Yeah. Aaron Neville is in this. Wow.
You know, you just remind me of something, shout out to Stellar Justin Lopez, who's a big Invincible fan, the way I am, Invincible comic and the Amazon cartoon. The man who wrote it, Robert Kirkman, is a huge fan of Family Matters. So there are a lot of Easter eggs there. Even the principal in Invincible is named Reginald. It's actually Reginald Vell Johnson that he drew, and it's really funny.
I'm not going to spoil anything. I saw Multiverse of Madness last night. I'm just going to say there is a very clear, almost homage to Invincible in Multiverse of Madness.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, it was good. It's one wacky multiverse. It's a little long, takes a while to get going, but there were some fun pops and surprises, and it was okay. We saw it at the drive-in last night.
Yeah, I'm not too much of a Doctor Strange guy, but I do think his movies have been good.
Yeah, first one I saw at Alamo Drafthouse. That was not the movie to see at an Alamo Drafthouse, where you've got like the waiters coming through every 5 minutes. Like I couldn't pay attention to anything. It's terrible. But no, let's talk about SmackDown. I mean, look, and this is the thing. I'm not saying Rampage was bad tonight. This was a serviceable, fun Rampage. It moved fast, but it was also on at 2:30 in the freaking afternoon, and it was pre-taped. and I heard very little buzz after the pre-tape. I heard the matches were good, but you do not put your can't miss episode of Rampage. Actually, there've been, let's be real. There've been very few can't miss episodes of Rampage. It is the B show, but you certainly don't put your can't miss episode on at 2:30 in the afternoon Pacific.
Yeah, that is not a good. I mean, they obviously out of their control. It's not something they're choosing to do for strategic reasons. They're getting bumped by the NHL playoffs. But, you know, you look at all this competition they're having, the NBA, the NHL, and this, that, and the other. And that is a very valid excuse. And it is very real reason as to why they keep getting hurt in terms of viewership. But even without that competition, the Rampage numbers aren't very good. Tony Khan even had to recently feel compelled to say, I want to try to make this into the A show again. And they had the world title match that didn't change hands, and the number did okay. But this is kind of a struggling show right now. And outside of all the problems it's having right now with the competition and being moved around, I think outside of all that, it's really hasn't delivered since the CM Punk episode.
Yeah. Well, there've been some good episodes. I feel
sure,
like
there've been some good. I'm just talking strictly from viewership. That I thought this is going to be like another Dynamite. They did 1 point something million for CM Punk, and you don't expect that every week. But I thought, okay, so they're going to fall into like a 700,000 range, but it fell off a cliff, really.
So we opened tonight's show with Charlotte Flair on SmackDown. They're in Long Island, typically a hot crowd. Nassau Coliseum. I believe I've been there. I think that's where Evolution was. I think, maybe.
Oh, that sounds like, yeah, I believe that's where it was.
I remember waiting for an Uber for 2 hours in the parking lot after that to go back to New York. But Charlotte Flair brings Aew out into the ring just basically to beat her up and show her dominance. And she cuts a promo on Ronda. And look, Charlotte Flair, you're an incredibly gifted athlete, but here's the deal. I can't sing, and I know this, so I don't try to. Tonight was better. But look, WWE needs to get a vocal coach to come in and work with the entire roster so everyone can at least carry the tune of Steam's "Na Na Hey Hey Kiss Him Goodbye." Because, like, can somebody auto-tune that? Could somebody just auto-tune Charlotte so she was like in key on that? Maybe that was the heel thing she was doing. And again, I can't sing. I'm one to talk, but I know that. And so if I got on national TV, you know, I would want my promo to be scathing, and she had some burns. Ronda's going to quit and go back to being a mom, but you know, you're just hurting yourself and your dominance by doing something you're not good at. Like, you know, I can't juggle. I wouldn't do that at the end of a promo to be like, hey, I'm a badass. I'm going to beat my opponent. Now check it out while I juggle. And I do that poorly. That's going to hurt my credibility more than help.
You are wearing a shirt of a juggler, though.
It's true.
I can see it happening. I agree with you on Charlotte in terms of, I think it's because she has a lower, deeper register. It's harder to hit those higher notes. And really, early in her career, Charlotte really couldn't woo either. Like, she had trouble wooing woo and getting up high like that. She struggled doing that because of that lower register. So it's one of those vocal things that she did work her way and eventually learn. I think it's because it's in her genes to woo. And maybe she's just going to have to practice that na 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 song.
Just lip sync it. Let's cue up a tape. Let's get a sound-alike singer. Let's auto-tune. They have auto-tune live now, WWE. You could just put that right into the mic feed. You know, wouldn't it be funny if they do that and they don't shut it off and then she's talking like T-Pain after that? Sounds like auto-tune.
Great, unbelievable gimmick. Somebody has to have that gimmick where they're always talking auto-tune.
Why was there no gimmick? Okay, number one, why was there no gimmick in like the 2008 to 2011 era of somebody auto-tuning? Second, why hasn't there been a gimmick YouTube channel of somebody auto-tuning wrestling promos to make them sound like songs?
I mean, I think you just stumbled upon something. You should have kept that to yourself. I think that could be a gold pin.
I don't have the time, you know, but remix it, like put a beat under it. Like you could do some amazing things.
100%. And I agree in terms of, you know, WWE is always late to things like this in terms of when something is hot, they're always going to do it 10 years later. So we're coming up around the time where they would do an auto-tune gimmick when it hasn't been really as hot for a while.
Look, but that being said, you know, Ronda came out, got into it with Charlotte. This is the match that I'm looking forward to on Backlash.
Me too. This should be the main event. Judging by how this went with Roman and Drew, and they're doing the 6-man, that means nothing. This match should be the main event, 100%.
Yeah. So
especially because there's going to be a title change. I do think Ronda's going to win this match, and that's how you want to go home. Oh yeah.
Can you it will be insulting if a 6-man tag is the main event of a pay-per-view. A 6-man tag with are any titles on the line?
No titles are on the line.
you can, I mean, like this will be insulting to every other title holder in all of WWE, whether they're on the card or not.
Yeah, especially Ronda, if you believe those rumors about her getting hot when she found out she was main eventing night one. I think if she finds out she's not even main eventing WrestleMania Backlash, we might never see her again. But that's only if you believe those rumors, which who knows if they're true. And I do see them main eventing with Ronda Rousey beating Charlotte Flair. I mean, if you want this show to come off as anything newsworthy, put that at the end. You have the title change, and that's the thing that people paid to go see.
Yeah. So, good promo for building heat, but please just work with a vocal coach. You know, you can also move it to your register. That's the key also. So I say I can't sing. Technically everyone can sing. You just need to know what key you can sing in to carry that and pull it off.
Yeah. Right. Is she going for an F sharp? What would Charlotte?
Well, that's what we need to learn. We need to figure it out, you know. But it's important, though. It's important. And this isn't, you know, this goes for anyone. If you're going to sing and the joke isn't that you're a bad singer, like you're not trying to be self-deprecating, like pull it off, man. You know, don't sell yourself short. But Sasha Banks versus Shayna Baszler. When is this tag team championship match happening?
Didn't they announce it for next week? I think we're finally doing it next week. And they've really put over Shayna and Natalya strong, winning those matches and breaking both these women's arms. But I see these two retaining in terms of Naomi and Sasha Banks. And then very interesting to see what happens with Doudrop and Nikki Cross maybe is coming back. Maybe those will be the next contenders.
I mean, is there any argument for taking the titles off Sasha and Naomi at this point?
No argument. You'll never see me again. Hey, you will never see me again if they lose this match. I don't want to put that out there, but I think they're doing a good job with them. I think they need to run with this. They finally seem like real women's tag team champions. God bless Shayna Baszler and Natalya. They just kind of threw them together as a mishmash. And, you know, Natalya's got enough on her plate. She's got NXT. She's got WWE main roster to have that title and have to do those storylines too. Let's just keep this simple.
Oh, Dylan Matthews saying, bring back Jillian Hall to sing the song. That would be a gimmick. That I'm going to bring in a singer to sing you off. Like, and then depending on the city, I'm going to bring a celebrity vocalist to sing the goodbye song to you.
I would love that. I would love Jillian in particular. She is an underrated singer. She should have had an album.
Yes. So Shayna Baszler won this match tonight. This was good. So I have to give credit for something major tonight. It sounded like almost a chorus of young women in the audience chanting for Sasha tonight that everyone online was like, this is piped in, right? This is too cool. Like this sounded like we went in a studio and said, let's get a group of younger women and have them all chant for Sasha. It sounded so perfect because you couldn't see them in the crowd because the crowd was just kind of, you know, doing their thing, whatever. Somebody on Twitter tweeted out video. It was legit in the like upper section that there was like a group of women chanting for Sasha. And why don't we have more coordinated chants like this going on with like large groups of people saying, we're going to do this. It sounded like perfection tonight. It was just such a great moment and great enhancer to this match.
Well, not everybody. You could say that Chase U has coordinated chants and coordinated people who come together, and whether they're plants or not, and do that. But that's really cool. I didn't know that they were able to find that because it did sound piped in when you were watching the TV, but that's really cool. I mean, Sasha Banks there's also another clip of her going to a school recently that I thought was really cool. And she's got just a very fierce fan base. Sasha Banks is one of the most over people on that roster. And one of those people, kind of like Nicki Minaj, where if you go after Nicki Minaj, you're going to have to deal with that, the barbs, and they're going to really come for you and then come for your whole life. And Sasha Banks has that fan base too, where her fans are very protective of her.
Made a joke once about Sasha stealing the blueprint from Matt Morgan. Didn't go well.
I remember that.
Did not go well. So Shayna won this match, but yeah, Sasha and Naomi better win this.
Yes, I see Sasha and Naomi. You know, it seems like they're just getting going with this title run. And I think this is actually going to be a really good match. I think all four women are really good and they're going to have a good tag team match.
So this is saying the main event of Backlash is going to be this non-title 6-man match. So
yeah, I mean, I guess it's being promoted as a main event and going up. Things could always, you you never know until they actually go on the show. But this is not a. I know you've got a lot of your stars and you've got Roman Reigns there. I think this is a match that could open the show. Honestly, I mean, really, your two most important matches. We say this on the podcast sometimes: is your opening match and your closing match. And this is a match that I think should open the show. There's nothing on the line. There's no stakes, and it's. I think the I Quit match is more of a main event. It's got the stipulation. It's a follow-up to another match they did, and I do expect there to be a title change. So you're sending the people home happy. Whereas I think Roman Reigns and the Bloodline are winning this match.
Yeah, and it's just this is all very manufactured. If the titles aren't on the line, what the hell is the point? Why even have a pay-per-view at this point?
I agree. I was very surprised when they went away. I thought they were just going to stall a little bit and decide which titles that they wanted to put on the line, but they're just they're literally, not literally, but they are punting figuratively on this pay-per-view rather than having what I thought was a marquee match and should have been the main event in terms of a unified tag team title match. They are now doing this 6-man match that I don't think people are going to care about when there's no stipulations.
They should open WrestleMania Backlash with the run sheet, the rundown, and have Pat McAfee come out and punt the actual script for the night.
Yeah, they should do that. It's like a symbolic thing. That'd be great.
Yes. So I have to give major credit here. I can't believe I'm saying this. Madcap Moss roasted Baron Corbin tonight, and it was actually pretty funny.
Wasn't that bad. I've been saying that he needs ghostwriters. I'll at your boy. I'll do it for free. But he needs ghostwriters, and this was as good as he's been. If he's going to do a gimmick like that, I really do think he needs to be better than even this. He needs to just be like, like we've talked about Mike Lawrence and some of the great comedians and roast writers who watch wrestling that I'm sure would be thrilled to just write him some jokes and send it to him. But this is good. This is more along the lines of what this should be. If he's going to be this Madcap Moss joking characters, the jokes have to be fire. Every joke has to be fire.
What did you say? Your body is a showcase for the worst work by some of the country's best tattoo artists.
Yeah, that was funny. That was very well worded. It's clearly a writer. Listen, they had Kenise Mobley, who got bullied out of this industry after she screwed up Bobby Lashley's name. She could have written some fire. She's one of the best comics working in this country right now. She could have written some fire for Madcap Moss.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew Gulak, who is auditioning, waiting for a new role. But tonight he's back in the ring for a surprise opponent, and it was Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther. And, portions of this made me uncomfortable for reasons that read the subtext of it all. This was not like an Inglourious Bastards moment for Drew Gulak. Gunther got the win.
Kind of the opposite of Inglourious Bastards, like the B-sides of Inglourious Bastards, where the Germans actually end up winning in an alternative universe.
Gunther's Austrian, but Austrians and Germans, when they work together, Jews get nervous.
But they were chanting USA. They did make it into kind of a
that's good
Rocky thing where, they were chanting USA. Drew Gulak's latest job, as it were, was the job to Gunther. And I'm really excited to see him on commentary. They did tease that he's going to join the broadcast team. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think Drew Gulak is utility player. He could literally do anything on the roster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's his gimmick, is that he's doing pretty much everything. Here's an idea for a Drew Gulak job. If you want to be topical in the zeitgeist that we're in right now, his next job is as SmackDown security, and he screws up. Somebody rushes the ring and gets into the ring, just like they did with Dave, just like they did with Will Smith and Chris Rock. Somebody rushes the ring because Drew Gulak screwed up on security.
I was going to say we have an episode where he's got multiple jobs and he's doing the broadcast, and we go backstage and he's actually working the steam table and catering, and then someone leaves and he's driving an Uber, that'd
be great.
Yeah. So we just got Drew, like how in Living Color, like how many jobs you got, man, that'd be Drew's thing. Cause we're in the age of the side hustle,
Hell yeah. And he's a millennial.
Yeah. And he'd be like, I got 8 jobs and no benefits. I'm an independent contractor at everything. So New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland. They were hyping this up a tables match on SmackDown. Actually a pretty good one. And this went on for a long time. I think this was the longest match of the night.
Yeah, they have a lot of long matches together. The combination of the Unholy Trinity and the New Day. I thought Kofi was incredible in this match. This is not that he's not usually incredible, but this is kind of turning back the clock. He's still got that athleticism, as we know, but he was just going all out and working his ass off and jumping 300 feet in the air. I thought this was it was weird because they built it up as like first time in 2 years we're having this tables match. And then I really feel like for as much as they built it up, they really could have done more with this and done a tables match maybe with another feud. But yeah, this is fine. I think these guys have been feuding for too long. There's a lot of talented people here. Good to see Butch back, but let's wrap this up. Let's get these guys with different people.
Where's Butch? Butch was under the ring for 2 weeks. Whole time.
On Long Island. They thought he was at Coachella. Nope. Long Island.
Do we know why Butch wasn't actually? Was he like on? What was Butch actually doing?
That's just his gimmick. Is that It's funny because I think they said they want to get him more ring time, and I think he was overseas and as part of the tour. And Sheamus kind of shared time with him in terms of Butch in Ridge Holland. But this is just a gimmick, is that he's this kind of wacky guy who tends to disappear almost like a child, but kind of like like an angry animal. I think they're going for like a bulldog, like a pet, like a wild animal, but he's a little guy, you know?
Paging Sheamus and Ridge Holland. We have a child who answers to the name of Butch waiting for you at the front of the store.
They should do that. They should go to a grocery store and he gets lost. That should be his music. It's like his theme music at the beginning. It should be Paging Butch.
But this was a good match, though. A lot of good spots, a lot of table action, announced table action. But Butch was under the ring. Sheamus and Ridge Holland got the win.
Yeah, this is fine. I've seen too much of these guys wrestling. I really do. This Butch thing is growing on me. I know it's not the greatest use of Pete Dunne for what you know he is and as talented as he is, but he's making this work. And that's what you got to do sometimes in WWE. Some people don't like doing it, and I completely understand that if you're an artiste and you consider yourself somebody who takes his craft seriously. But Butch is doing the right thing. I think it's going to do right for him long-term if he is able to knock this out the park.
War Hero 99 says they're waiting for Big E to return.
Well, it's going to be a while. It looks like he's having complications with that neck surgery, unfortunately. He's going to be in that neck brace for another 4 to 6 weeks. But prayers to Big E. I can't wait to see him back.
I want Big E to be well. Whether he comes back or not at this point is not even like from what he went through. I mean, that's a much later future decision depending on his recovery.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just want him to be right. And if he does get right, candidate to win the Royal Rumble. I mean, we were talking about the Royal Rumble I think it was on Tuesday, actually. And that could be a candidate if he's able to come back by then. But you're right. I just want him to, because it's a very serious neck injury. It's almost a miracle that he might not even need surgery, but they're now putting that back on the table. So hopefully the best case scenario, I hope he's recovered fully.
No, absolutely. Paul Heyman, perhaps with the most awkward promo he's ever cut, reverse hitting on Kayla backstage, but interrupted by Sami Zayn.
This is funny. I like when he goes, "Don't leave him alone with me."
So let's unpack this. So Sammy says that Shinsuke is not done with Roman. Of course, Rick Boogs is injured. Sammy wants to let Heyman know he's going to take care of Shinsuke. Reigns doesn't have to worry about it. Wants Heyman to relay the message. Heyman says Roman appreciates his initiative. I mean, I like this, that Sammy is basically going to start telling everyone that he's in the bloodline soon.
Yeah, he's the stooge. That's the gimmick, is that he's going to go around snitching on everybody, telling everybody's business. And I think he's great in this role. He's great with everything he does. And I like that he's now rubbing elbows with the main event. And, you know, I want Sami Zayn to be like an honorary member of the bloodline. I think that'd be funny.
Yeah, they said stooge so many times tonight.
Yes, that is his gimmick. You could tell because Michael Cole in particular made it a point to say stooge. You know that's coming from Vince. You know that's something that is a programming decision. So Sammy the Stooge is going to be a thing moving forward. He's going to be snitching on everybody.
Love Sammy. He has Adam Pearce for a match against Shinsuke, and it's going to happen tonight. But we had Chapter 5 of the story of Lacey Evans.
Chapter 5. And we got to see Lacey Evans in the flesh. See, this is where we need Issa to tell her sad story.
Oh, jeez. This was hard tonight, man. Talked about losing a family member to suicide, losing a family member to an overdose. I mean, these are very personal. I've never knocked the content of these, but I've always felt the presentation was a little off. And even tonight, I don't know. Like, I like that she got emotional. I like that she got really real with it. I mean, look, I've been invested in Lacey Evans' success since day one, just knowing her real story back since she was in NXT. But what did you think of her entrance to the ring and the like literal grandstanding, even asking people to applaud? I mean, she got a big pop. But she just came out for like a victory lap tonight.
Kind of awkward, kind of heel slanting. And I don't know if that's what they were going for. I thought this was very awkward in her live appearance. And they mic'd the crowd for her backstage segment, and they were cheering when she talked about being a veteran. I don't think they needed that thing from Samantha Irvin, where she had this really kind of hokey, almost like rehearsed intro where she's like, please stand up and start applauding right now. It's like, that's something you do for a heel, where you insist that they stand up and applaud. They didn't need to be told that. They should have just walked out, which makes me kind of think like, are they going to go the heel route with Lacey Evans? Because they really shouldn't. This is like the biggest babyface thing ever. But WWE is not good at booking babyfaces, and they're not good at telling when somebody needs to be a heel or a babyface a lot of times. And I got heel vibes from this. Like, I don't think she's going heel, but the execution made her seem like she was going to be a heel.
And I think she's going to be a feud with Raquel. I think that's what's
really
going to happen. I don't know why I think that. I don't know where I read that. Did I imagine that? Did we talk about that? Did that happen? Did they allude to that in the show? I have no clue.
She did say she wanted the SmackDown Women's Championship, which I guess is what everybody's supposed to say, but she made it a point to say that that's where she's going. So I think they're going to maybe put her on a run against people, because I feel like her and Raquel are in the same boat where they're just kind of getting established again, and they both need their own separate win streaks before they cross paths. But, this is fine. I think they're doing – I think, especially saying chapter 5, like the higher we go in these chapters, the more obnoxious this is going to start to get, where it's like, it's time for chapter 29 and the Lacey, like you only do so many chapters before this starts becoming something like that. But I just thought it was very awkward how she came out. I thought she was cool and she was received well by this crowd, but this presentation when she was introduced to the live crowd seemed very heelish.
To your point about presentation, it's like, I don't think they're that smart and I don't think they're that stupid to do either of those, to make this like a heel self-parody thing. And I know we've, poked fun at some of these earlier promos in the presentation, but no, I mean, this was very touching tonight. And I think a lot of us have been affected by friends and family members who have taken their own lives or lost their battles with substance abuse. And I think that's very relatable and endearing. I think her military service is very commendable. I think she just has always come across as a badass, but the presentation of this makes me think this is 30 years ago. We're right on that patriotic high after the Gulf War. Mm-hmm. And Vince thinks, oh my God, I've got the biggest women's wrestler of all time in this character. Like, that's to me what feels like a throwback, the presentation, even the new theme music.
Yeah. And and I really loved her old theme music actually, but it was kind of a heelish theme song, but it is definitely just kind of the all-American red, white, and blue type. It's always going to play with Vince, that patriotism, and it did play with this New York crowd. I mean, to his credit, and I there's nothing wrong with that in terms of her being a proud veteran and a mom. And there's so much to like about this. This is, to my point, this is the type of thing AEW needs to do more of in terms of creating these fully fleshed out characters with women who you can get behind, because this is as relatable as it gets. And they really don't need to do much else other than these promos and have her wrestle.
Manny Santos, and what I assume is a Degrassi homage in that screen name. Manny, underrated character on Degrassi, but Manny Santos saying pretty sure it's a swerve and she's going to be a heel. I'll be really surprised if that's where they're going.
I think it's if you're going to, I understand making her heel maybe eventually or whatnot, but I mean, this is the best work they've done with a babyface in I don't know how long. I mean, when's the last time WWE just let somebody be themselves in terms of, because there's a lot of people with really cool stories in WWE, but they always want to kind of control how these people are presented. And you understand that, but this is a really good story. It's a babyface story. You're overthinking yourself if you're going to make her a heel this early.
Yeah, we shall see. So Shinsuke versus Sammy. What did you think of this match?
I like this. I was very confused when Shinsuke, this is very deflating comeback for Shinsuke to get counted out. Yeah. His first match back after cutting a promo on Roman Reigns and saying he's coming for Roman Reigns and he can't even beat Sami Zayn, who's the stooge. He was like not even the first boss. He's like the guy you beat up on Streets of Rage to get to the first boss. He's the guy that you throw around. He's one of those goons. And he lost. And I thought it just made Shinsuke as a babyface look really bad.
Yeah. Good match. Sammy won by count out though. So good. We're going to maybe continue with this a little bit. Maybe they'll have more. I mean, but Shinsuke versus Roman, I'm sorry, that could have been at Backlash and we could have the real tag team unification match we were promised originally. But look, Sammy and Shinsuke, one of the best matches I've ever seen in person at that takeover in Dallas.
Oh yeah.
I think, but this is where the show started losing steam tonight. With
and just based on how great their matches have been in the past, especially that one, which is one of my favorites ever, this really wasn't to their standards all that. I mean, I felt like it was a little sloppy. I felt like they had a couple of spots that seemed to go awry, but they're both very good. I thought overall the match was fine. I just don't really agree with beating Shinsuke in his essentially first match back, given the story that they're telling with him coming for Roman Reigns. How are we now supposed to get behind this? I understand it was a count out, but that almost made it worse. It made him seem like a little weaker.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll be curious to see where they go with this and what they do. But this final segment, I mean, look, Riddle and Orton tonight were cute. And as Matt Morgan once said, that is never what you should apply as the adjective to someone you're pushing as stars. But all the pot jokes, all the different things there. But then the segment with Drew McIntyre, all talking about the things they acknowledge tonight. Yeah, like it was kind of hokey. I acknowledge, how handsome you are. I acknowledge this. Nobody say I acknowledge all the pain I'm going to cause to the Usos. Like, it was just a little silly.
Yeah, it was very silly. It did get over. I will say that the live crowd seemed very into it. I like that Riddle was talking about Randy Orton's legs being veiny, but I thought this was very silly for a main event segment. But I mean, do we really even have a main event at Backlash? So just this being the go home build kind of hammers home that they really don't have much of a pay-per-view in terms of something that's must-watch television. I thought the brawl was fine, but I'm just watching this like, man, like this is what they were advertising the whole show. Your main event is we're going to brawl with the Usos. And
yeah,
I mean, come on, what's that going to do? That's going to keep people watching? Not that there's anything wrong with the people there, but there's no match. There's just a brawl.
Yeah, and the baby face is standing tall at the end of it tells me they're losing.
100%.
But it means nothing.
Mm-mm.
Do you think they're going to do the tag match? Oh, I guess if they're not unifying the tag match, why? Yeah, there will be no tag title match then with them.
Yeah, I mean, they should eventually. They've been teasing it like they were going to do a tag match, and I would, they've done tag matches in the past for no titles on the line in terms of there being unification. So, I think they should just go their separate ways after that, and maybe go toward Roman versus Shinsuke. Maybe so. What are we in May? So I think the next one's Money in the Bank. So Roman versus Shinsuke, maybe for Money in the Bank, and then Drew versus Roman. It's SummerSlam, or I mean, I know Cody is there waiting the rings when the wings,
yeah.
but I mean, Drew versus Roman is kind of like a stadium type, whether it's Allegiant Stadium for Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. I think it's too much to wait. I know Drew wants to win the title at that Cardiff show that they're doing, but that's in September, and I mean, who knows? Anything can happen between now and September.
So could you imagine any other TV show that you watch week in and week out and you watch it for like 6 weeks in a storyline and they're like, man, we're not going to resolve this storyline. We decided it didn't matter. We're going to buy some time while we figure out the next storyline that we're going to abandon. Terrible. You're not doing right by your audience. This is awful. And the fact that this is a plan that we're going to make it seem like we're going to do one thing. And it's typical Carney booking where they're going to say, oh, we'll do a unification match, which I was legitimately excited about. I've never been this excited for a tag team match in I don't know how long, because these tag team titles are so diluted and they just pass them around. And this seems like something that's a big deal. No travel issues. There's no reason to not do this.
Yeah, they just moved away from it, and I think it's unfortunate. I think you could have a tag team champions that should travel. I think all the secondary titles should be unified, and they go back and forth.
Yeah. And in fairness to every other TV show, every show you're watching right now that's like on cable that has 10 episodes or 13 episodes, like they write all that shit in advance and then film it. They don't say 8 weeks in, no major change in the storyline.
Yeah, unless it's lost.
Yeah. So that was SmackDown and Rampage tonight. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got too. I mean, this was really kind of a meaningless night of wrestling. If we're going to be honest, they had Rampage in the middle of the day while people were getting yelled at by their boss. And then they had the SmackDown, which is a half of a go-home show for a half of a pay-per-view. So coming out of this, hopefully both companies are able to go full speed and we can get some meaningful booking.
Yeah. Well, Sunday is WrestleMania Backlash. Wrestling Uncle will be covering it after. Neither of us will, but the others will be here. We'll be back Tuesday to talk about NXT 2.0. I'm going to go because I'm going to watch the movie Posse, and I'm going to go back to Paramount Plus and watch some more classic Yo MTV raps. And I'm going to tweet at Rapper. I tweeted at Ice-T, how many Fergora Kangles does he still own? Because I'd forgotten that. I was watching Ice-T, old Ice-T videos. I've forgotten about the furry Kangles that he used to wear.
Iconic.
That was a look. Absolute look.
Him and LL. That was a big look in the 80s, that Kangle. And they're kind of coming back.
Yeah. And Kangle makes more than just the LL hat. They got the other cat. I mean, I own like 4 Kangles of different styles. They're just all around. But the Fergora, the furry Angora one, I'd forgotten about that. I got to stock up on some Fergora Kangles to look like Ice-T circa 1988.
I want those glasses and the Kangles on a future podcast.
I will do, and I'll get them to match too.
Yes. Let's go.
That'll be the key. Well, everybody, have a good weekend. He's at This Is Nasty. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein. If you're watching UMTV Raps, let me know what you're watching this weekend, what episodes and what you're checking out. Because, that's exclusively where I'm going to be. So have a good weekend. We'll catch you back here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.